Hi there, in this video I'm going to show you how to use the WhatPulse productivity dashboard and to see where your time actually goes. And answer the age-old question of how productive has I been for the last day, the week, or the last month even. And we're going to see all of this data and these answers in the WhatPulse productivity dashboard. When you open up the dashboard on the productivity side, you are welcomed with 3 sections. And the overview tab is basically extracting the detailed data into readable format, so you can have a very easy view of where your time is going. The applications and websites section is where we dive into the details, and then profiles is where we actively manually classify specific time and effort. We also have a date range picker where we can see the last week, the last month, 3 months, or even a custom date range. And I can also go back in time and browse through the weeks or the months, however you like, to compare notes between specific weeks and specific months as well. So the overview tab is basically showing the high-level data, the percentage that I've currently been productive, 73%. Woohoo. Focus rate is the difference between active time and idle time on your computer. So in my case, I've been leaving my computer idle for half of the time. I can see that I am a after lunch person, where after lunch I have my peak productivity hour. I am a little bit over 7 hours daily active usage. So that's not active and idle usage. I have my top applications in the last week in this case. And what is my most focused day versus my average session for the applications on a given day, and how many applications a day am I using, and also more importantly, how much context switching am I doing on a daily basis. More on that in the future of WhatPulse, but it's important to minimize the amount of context switches that you are doing. We've also split up the applications and the websites on categories. So how much time have I spent in the browser versus how much time have I spent in automation and AI. If I'm not interested in websites, I can also deselect that and just see only the applications that we are looking for. And then we are slowly diving a little bit more into details. So the applications and websites is basically the detailed view of which applications and which websites have I actually been spending my time in, and also my efforts in, because I can see the amount of keys, the clicks, and the words that I've typed in specific applications. And if I want to get a little bit more detailed, I can also include more statistics like the scrolls and the distance. And I can also hide specific columns if I want to. But let me actually go back to the default here. All of the applications have a category and also have been marked from the system, from our side, as productive or non-productive. But you can actually override this. So if I, in this case, want to mark Verdium, which is my communication hub, where I do everything communication-wise business, and I can actually mark that as productive, meaning that my productivity score is going to go up a little bit. Let me just double check that real quick. So 92% with that change. And in my case also, I know that I'm only using Firefox for personal reasons and non-productive reasons. So I want to also be honest and mark that as non-productive. So you can go in here and look at specific applications. You can also search for specific applications. So if I want to see how much time and energy I've put into GitHub.com, I can also see that. And basically see any application that you have been using. So profiles is interesting because we are using manual activation of these profiles here. Meaning that you can create your own profiles, give it a name, and then activate the profile whenever you start working on something. Meaning that if I am starting to working on WhatPulse development, I enable that WhatPulse development profile, meaning that all of the time that I spent and all of the applications and the keys and the clicks and the words, etc., against that profile are being tracked right here. So this means that you can see throughout the week how much time you spent on specific projects, on specific activities, or maybe even customers. We also have freelancers that use it for time tracking against the customers. And if I want to get really granular, I can also look at the hourly basis profile usage. So in this case, you can see that the infrastructure has been used on Friday, and then a little bit late in the afternoon, I switched over to meeting debrief, and then the evening is basically owned by meeting debrief. So you can see on an hourly basis on what your profiles are actually used for. And again, this is per the time period that I'm currently looking at. So if I wanted to look at the last month for my profiles, then I can also see that right here. And you can see there's a lot more profiles, but also just a lot more days in the last month. Although, if you're not interested in profiles or even the details, you can collapse these. Basically what happens here is that it'll remember which ones you have collapsed and then not bother you with expanding that view next time that you come and visit its page. All right, so this is how you use this dashboard in order to get a lot more insights on where your time is actually going. This is where you track it, tune it, and basically own your productivity score. Thank you very much for watching.